Life of Love
Life of Love.
with Joy Hilson.
Hello, dear friends, and welcome to Life of Love this week. I'm so excited to have your ears and your hearts listening and tuning in to your curiosity about your life of love, however it looks today. So, first of all, I'm going to set our intention and get us in our space, and then we'll get started. So, very excited. Thank you for being here and sharing this grid of light we're creating to help this world be what we want it to be. And so, I honor this space and this time you've set aside to be with us today. Thank you. All right, I'm just going to take a deep breath and get into my heart. Thank you, Creator, God, Goddess, for bringing us together and giving us the resources to be here and create this space. We're going to collaborate and bring forth a message for the highest good to feed our souls and support our bodies as they're constantly trying to communicate with us. And I'm just so excited to have Chelsea bring forth her insights, and her guides have shared with her and her life experiences to supplement, enhance, and illuminate ways that we can show up in our highest divinity and our unique sovereign power that we have within us that is begging to shine with grace, abundance, and freedom. So we're holding space for freedom, divinity, grace, and the divine feminine power that is this energy that is available to us that sometimes we use in a way that's more masculine. And so we're tapping into using that energy and our power and our powerhouse of our divine feminine power to be in our glory, however we decide to spend our energy, because we have so much energy and we give it away. We give it away so much. So, dear God, I'm asking you to work through us and for us to show us how to glorify the divinity within us as you created us to be, because we're all perfect. And I ask the Holy Spirit to bring us clarity and the intensity of the signal to reach the ears that need to hear and the hearts which wish to soften to these messages. And take what serves you and leave what doesn't. We are not a healing. We are just working through our divinity and feeling good, because that's our birthright, is to be healthy and happy. So thank you. I thank my guides for being here. I thank Chelsea's guides for collaborating as they see fit. And I'm just so excited and honored to be part of this. And I thank you. And so it is. All right, Chelsea, welcome to Life of Love.
Thank you so much for having me.
Chelsea McLeod is in the house. She's an integrative health practitioner who coaches women of all, high performers or curious minds who are curious about their hormones, their balances, and balancing these hormones for releasing weight, for helping with anxiety, gut health, hormone balance, energy, sleep, all of it, stress. Okay, so we're hitting all of these hot topics that we're all dealing with. We all wake up in the middle of the night going, what did I not do? Where am I? I need to show up. Did I pay that bill? Did I call back my friend? Did I say the wrong thing? Those million question things that come up in the middle of the night when we finally get quiet and our bodies and our subconscious say, hello, we're here, because we get on the treadmill, right, Chelsea? I mean, you've been dealing with this, and I love your work on your healthy hustle, hormone reset, and your podcast is not you, it's your hormones. So yeah, we're going to dig deep into this and come out with some answers. So thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited for our conversation today.
Yes. I would love to start with you, because I think that having like an extreme example so that you share what you experience, because you're a high achiever, but I understand you hit a wall, or something in you is like, I can't do this. This isn't serving me. And you having such a high energy and being so amazing, and then realizing this isn't working, is a good backdrop for someone who's just like, I'm off and I don't feel good. But you just took your achievements so high that I would love for you to highlight that, so that everyone's on a continuum in this idea, right, of how we balance things. So share with us what you went through if you can want to.
I think a lot of women will probably relate to my story because it goes all the way back to when I was young, when I was the big sister, the one who was raising my brothers and I was doing all the things and I was playing sports and I was kind of that overachiever. I had
Mhm.
parents who weren't around a lot. I stepped up as a young person. And so I was very used to leading and doing a lot of things. I also went to a very competitive prep school growing up, and so I always had a lot of homework and a lot of athletic games. So I'm very used to the culture of competitiveness and being an athlete and being a competitor. And that took me into college where, you know, I I went to a school that demanded a lot of my time. It demanded, I played college sports, so I was on the field for 2 hours a day, and then I was in the library for the rest of the day, and then I was partying on the weekends. So that's a whole different type of demand on the body, but if you know what I'm saying. But,
Yes.
for me, it was kind of that constant hanging of my worth on my output and what I was achieving. And, I'm going to launch a magazine and hire a staff today on my college campus, and I'm going to get this job over here, and I'm going to apply for this competitive scholarship over here. And it was just always reaching for the next thing, right? And I think it's also interesting because I work with women who are very high achievers. By the time their body can't keep up anymore, they've typically also had some kind of loss. And it's interesting because a lot of these women have been through a divorce. They've been through a loss of a loved one, loss of a spouse, loss of a job. And for me, it looked like having a brother who had a traumatic brain injury when I was a freshman in college and he was a 16-year-old football player. And from that moment on, he suffered a very serious traumatic brain injury that left him completely physically and mentally disabled. And so from that moment, I had the high achievements over here on both my body, my brain, my life, but also the grief over here. And coupled together, they just it was too much for my body to keep up, and that's where I started to see hormonal imbalances really worsen because I could get away with it as a teenager. But once I turned 18 and kind of had more intense emotional demands on myself, that's where I started to see things like cramps. That's where my skin started to break out. That's where my body shape started to change. And I never was one of those people who had significant weight gain, but I just didn't have the body composition. I wasn't performing very well in sports. I was kind of soft. I was kind of fluffy. I was not sleeping well. Like the night that I got the call that Zach, my brother, was in the ICU having a brain injury was the first night that I stopped sleeping. And so from there on out, I kind of didn't realize that that wasn't normal. Like I was like, every college student is not sleeping. Everyone's in pulling all nighters. They're all like laying in bed with their eyeballs open all night. Like I thought that was just normal. And my hair started to fall out. I lost my cycle and then it came back, but I was in so much pain. I was like, I had never had a period cramp before, but all of a sudden I had these backaches that felt like my back was literally breaking. And I was like, what is this? Like, I just don't understand. And all those symptoms followed me into my young adult life. I graduated from school. I applied for all these jobs. I was burning both of the candle at both ends in corporate, working for a very high performing e-commerce job at Reebok and later Adidas. And so I was on calls at 8 a.m. and then I was on my laptop until 11 p.m. and I was doing CrossFit during the day and I was just doing all the things trying to change my body composition, trying to sleep better. I would smoke weed to fall asleep. I would take crazy supplements during the day and I would take Adderall to keep me awake. Like I was just on this crazy hamster wheel. And I think so many women in America have tried these things, right? And so it wasn't until COVID that my body was forced to slow down. Because some women, they go and go and go until they burn out. But that wasn't my story. I actually had, a pin put in my plans and said, "No, Chelsea, like you have to slow down. We're going to put you in this lockdown." At the time I was living in Australia, we had the strictest lockdown in the world. And the world said, you know what? Before you absolutely cook yourself, we're going to force you to heal. And so that's where I could feel my nervous system starting to de-stress. And I was exhausted. I don't know if you have ever had that moment where you have been stressed for so long and you're kind of running on stress hormones. Like that's the artificial
Yeah.
energy you're running on. And then all of a sudden you're like,
Mhm.
whoa, I'm exhausted now that I've had to
Yeah,
turn these off, right?
because your adrenaline just keeps going and going and going. Yeah, I've been there.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And so then you're like, oh, well, I don't like this. I'm not used to feeling like this. But from that moment on, it's like, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes as a 27-year-old. Like, I had PCOS. I had all these things that the doctor said were just eat less, exercise more, change your birth control. Like, that's where I decided, you know what? My body doesn't feel good. There's something wrong here. So I'm going to start taking action to fix this. And that's where I started listening to the podcast. I started reading the books. I started looking into other options other than kind of like traditional Western medicine. I was teaching spin on the side as well. And I was like, I need to stop doing cardio. Like, this doesn't feel good in my body right now. And I certainly don't look and feel the way I want to. And so having that forced slowdown was actually really good for me. And in the process of healing my hormones, I realized how big of an issue this actually was and how many women were suffering just like I was. Women of all ages. They could be in their 20s, 30s, but also a lot of women who were in their 40s, 50s, 60s who I was seeing at work who were not able to get pregnant. The women who had the role that I would have in 3 years, like the VP of e-commerce, were not able to have babies. They were struggling. They were having to do IVF. They were not sleeping. They were losing their hair. And I just looked at that and I was like, I don't want that. I don't want that. Like, I want to heal myself. I want to look and feel a certain way. And I don't really like the trajectory of the people around me who I'm looking at. And so that's where I started to take my healing a little bit more seriously. I worked with a practitioner myself who helped me balance my hormones. I started doing more holistic stuff. I got on my supplements. I changed the way I exercised and I really balanced my hormones. And that's where life started to change for me. That's where I actually felt real energy and I was not snapping at my team all day at work. And I was actually seeing muscle growth in the gym and my skin cleared up. My hair looked amazing. Like, I was looking back at photos during those couple years where I had really focused on healing my hormones, and I just looked like a different person, and people were coming up to me being like, "What have you done? Like, why do you look so good? Like you look so lean, your skin is glowing." And I was like, "Well, this is what health looks like. Like, this is what hormone balance looks like. This is what's possible for every woman if she learns the skill of taking care of herself, learn the skill of balancing her hormones." Because I think so many women want the hack. They just want a
Mhm.
cream or a pill. And it's like, this is a skill set. And this is what I tell women all the time. It's like the first time you use Excel, you suck at it, but you learned how to do it over time and now you're an expert. And this is like, women want hacks, but we need habits. We need habits, we need skills. And this is why so many women choose to work with me so they can skip the line and just be told like, hey, here are the cheat codes. Like, here's what to do and here's how to do it in the context of a life that's really busy.
I love how you said heal your hormones because that's freeing in itself because you're saying, there's no quick fix. There's no get your blood. I went through it. It's like, well, draw my blood and see what's wrong with my hormones. And they're like, we don't know normal hormones for you. Like, you'd have to do it over 10 years. No, you heal your hormones. And I am so delighted to have you use those words. You fix your hormones. This is in you. And it's no shame. It's not your fault. This is not your fault. This is us develop in the society that that your worth is how many stickers you have on your paper as a kindergartner. Did you get a gold star or did you get a negative? Like, we're conditioned to this and it's up to us to say stop. It's not isn't serving me. And so yeah, your story is so powerful. And I do love that it's not just perimenopause. This is women's hormones across the board. And it's normal for your body to say, hold on, you're not taking care of me, and give you these signs and symptoms. So yeah, that's what I wanted to get into, like, root cause roadmap. What realization did you come to? Was it through the work with the practitioners, or how did you come up with your root cause roadmap? And then what are some red flags that you've noticed across women? Just that it is hormones. You're not going crazy, and you don't need some kind of antidepressant or some kind of mind altering drug or alcohol. But here's some signs. Could you share those with us? Because I just want to get to the nitty gritty because this is so powerful.
There's so much here to unpack. And I think the first thing, what you talked about, is the symptoms that most women are having are very common, but they're not normal. And what we have to remember, if we just take a step back and we look at, especially, Western society in general, especially in America, it's like we have an entire economic system, an entire corporate system, this giant engine, but also our food supply. that's really set up to maximize profits for shareholders. And these foods and these jobs and these, the corporate grind is not designed with women's hormone health in mind. And what that does not mean is, oh, we just have to unplug from the matrix and go live on a farm, because that's not realistic. But we need to learn tools to help us navigate our work and navigate the food system, because the reality is it's really difficult to keep your hormones in balance when you don't have these skills. And this is why women have so many signs and symptoms. And, for women who want to learn more about this, like I always say, it's not you, it's your hormones. That's the name of my podcast.
Mhm.
And it really helps women drill down on if they have a hormonal imbalance. The first episode I did was just drilling into what are the signs and symptoms that you have imbalanced hormones. And a lot of women listen to that and they're like, oh my goodness, I didn't even realize I had a hormonal imbalance. Because the reality is 4 out of 5 women in America have one. They just don't
Mhm.
realize it. They just think, "Oh, it's normal to sleep terribly. It's normal to get bloated as the day goes on. It's normal to not go to the bathroom number 2 less than
Mhm.
once a day. It's normal to be constipated. It's normal to have headaches. It's normal to have skin issues, hair loss." These are not normal. Like, these are all signs of hormonal imbalance. Then you also have other stuff like infertility, especially unknown infertility for women who are trying. Also, any obvious diagnosis of things like endometriosis, PCOS, type 2 diabetes from a doctor is also a sign that your hormones are imbalanced. And so I think so many women just say, oh, well, this is normal after having a baby, or after age 40, this is just what happens, or, during menopause, this is just what happens. And I'm here to tell you that it's not. If you're having these symptoms, it means there's an imbalance no matter where you are with your age and your hormonal snapshot.
Okay, so it seems like if you're not feeling good, it's your hormones. Like really. Like if you can't find your joy, there's something going on with your hormones. And I heard you say like food supply is number 1, like what you're putting in. And I know that was a big pivotal point for me when I bought an Eat Clean book. It was How to Eat Clean. And then I started reading labels, and then you look at the ingredients and just basically to help support your hormones, try not to eat anything that you can't pronounce.
I
To
love
me,
that.
like it has these our food has plastics in it. Our food has natural flavors or chemicals that your body has to assimilate. So that can be a hormone disruptor, and it can be bound with some kind of polymer, plastic, that blocks your hormones from doing what they need to do when it's a artificial natural flavor. I mean, that's the biggest. And I love that what Robert Kennedy is doing by raising awareness of these things, and all of a sudden artificial colors it's coming up. So the public is ready to hear this. I mean, we're on to the industrial food complex poisoning us and working on shelf life of food versus our health.
Mm.
So, farmers markets are popping up. So there's a
Mhm.
culture around this. Like you have support. It's just you saying no more because the industry will respond.
Mhm.
Like I remember it was like 10 years ago. I went and looked at all the cereals with BHT in them.
Mhm.
BHT it's illegal in Europe, and it was in our cereals like
Yes.
so much, like cornflakes, BHT. It was in everything. It was in hot dogs, like everything. And I just went and I looked at all the labels, and I had this blog, and I was like BHT, and now all of a sudden there's no BHT anymore. They're doing it with a vitamin A or vitamin D, I think. Vitamin D helps extend the shelf life of that kind of food now. But it's a more healthy option, but it took us to say we're not buying that crap, and we know it's crap because they don't allow it in Europe. And so, yeah, we're poised. We're ready. We're ready for this food revolution. There are people fighting every day to help make us more healthy. But it's up to you to say, I'm a divine vessel and I'm not letting that shit in. I am not going to eat artificial colors. And it is really hard to go to the grocery store and not find something with a seed oil in it, for example.
Mhm.
I mean, it's almost impossible. Even pretzels. Pretzels have palm oil in it, and I love pretzels. I'm like, "Why?" I mean, it's a constant like, okay, so you really love that pretzel, but you're not gonna eat anything else with seed oil the whole day. You've just supported your hormones, if I'm correct. Like, are seed oils affecting our hormones?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. I always tell women, from a practical standpoint, there's a whole process of learning how to make good food choices, right? Like, this is something I really coach women through over a 6-month process. But straight off the bat, if there's a couple skills that I want women to learn how to do, it's discerning seed oils and just looking for just being smart consumers around our food, right? It's like become a package turner. I always joke with my clients about this. Like, just be a label turner. And it seems kind of nerdy and it might add 5 minutes to your food shop. But if you could just turn the package around, and I mean, some people even just take a snapshot of it and put it in ChatGPT. But I always tell people, like, if it has more than 5 or 6 ingredients, or if you don't recognize the ingredients, and I'm not talking about like, if you turn it around and there's raisins and it's like grapes and then one tiny little bit, like maybe a little bit of citric acid or something. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about like long chemical names that you don't recognize. Like, do you want to put that in your body? And it's so funny. I had one client who was with her child and she was kind of learning how to read ingredients, and she had her 4-year-old turn the package around and read it. And he was like, "Ew, what's that?" And it's just so funny because, like, kids know. They
They
know
know.
better than we do because we just grew up in this and thought it was normal. And so
Oh, yeah, like, I grew up Twinkies were, like, the best thing. Like,
ding
Twinkies,
dongs,
my
zebra
gosh,
cakes,
Little
ugh,
Debbie's, that's what I was just gonna say, Little Debbie's, yeah.
like, can you
Yeah,
believe what we used to eat? It's crazy.
right, Tang.
Yeah.
I
Oh my
mean,
god, Tang. Well, that is a deep cut.
that's my goodness, and now there's apps, like you said, there's apps you can just scan and be like, "No," it'll give you a rating, and then a big thing, and I'm not perfect with my hormones. In fact, I wanna share something because it was so awful, and wait, the other awful thing is, like, you're trying to read labels, and most women, like, when they hit 40, the close eyesight starts to go. So you're like, you not only you can't read the labels, you can't even see the labels. You have to bring your readers to the grocery store and be like, okay. And it's just so awful. It's like you're trying to get to the grocery store and it's taking so long. So I do appreciate the apps where you can scan it or even enlarge it. But I want to get back to my other story about, I guess it was pre-COVID. It was. Everyone's wearing the Spanx leggings, right? And, I put my Spanx on and I'm like, I look good. I look good. And then COVID, I stopped wearing Spanx and I let myself be. And I was like, oh my God, I'm 3 months pregnant. I've been 3 months pregnant for a year now. Like, what is happening? And then, it's like, oh, you start looking at, the sugar that you're putting in and intermittent fasting. And I've
Mhm.
tried so many things. So I'm really excited to hear your um, insight on this because there's the Galveston diet, which gave me some really good helpful tips about how much protein I should be having. But like, what are things that you have your clients track? I know you said there's something that you have them track. If the people could track 4 things, it would give them a lot of insights on their hormones. Would you share with us about that?
Yeah, so I think one of the most powerful things, let's talk about inputs and habits to track versus outputs, as in like, metrics that you can track. So,
I love it.
as
I
far as
love
we're
it.
looking at our habits, we always have to understand like how our choices are impacting the result, right? So, I say, like, let's look at what time you're eating, what you're eating. Let's look at your sleep. So how many hours you're sleeping. Let's look at things like when we look at outputs, right? We want to look at your cycle. So I always tell women if they are under 55, if they are still cycling, tracking your cycle. And I use a specific app with my clients to track their cycle because it's so important to understand the rise and fall of energy, the rise and fall of stress resilience, because no week is the same depending where you are in your cycle. So if you're still a cycling woman and you're listening to this, like, really getting in tune with your body's trends throughout the month is really important. So, tracking cycle, tracking things like your heart rate variability can really show us how resilient your body is to stress. I always say HRV, if you have an Aura ring, which I'm wearing here, or if you have, an Apple Watch or a Whoop strap, you'll be able to see this. But it's really powerful in terms of showing how, a lot of the times with women who have hormonal imbalances, their HRV is going to be really low. And we want to create some upward trend in HRV to make sure that they're becoming more resilient, because the higher your HRV is, the reality is the more balanced your metabolism is, the better you're able to actually burn fat, just healthier your entire system is. So that's one thing we look at. We look at REM sleep, deep sleep, total sleep. Because, if you're having those 2 or 3 a.m. wake ups, that's a sign that your hormones are not balanced and we got to get things back into balance. So a couple other things we look at is resting heart rate. And then obviously I use functional medicine lab tests to look at specific markers of, what are your hormones doing? Where are your hormones at? Cortisol, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. Like we want to look at all of those things in addition to, fasted insulin levels. We want to look at HbA1c. So there's so many different biometrics and biomarkers to really signal, is this woman healthy? And if she is having trouble losing weight, why is that? We want to really laser target the protocol to make sure that she's able to release the weight and start feeling the way she wants to.
Hmm. And from what I heard you say in the beginning, there's a lot of this is tied to stress and the like if your body is focusing on survival, because this is what it is. We're putting ourselves in a survival state instead of a thriving state by having external stresses coming at us and not functionally dealing with them because there's quick fixes. There's a glass of Chardonnay, a movie on, and so you don't have to deal with your own thoughts. You can just project and suppress and whatever socially is appropriate because honestly, people don't want to get together and hear each other's problems. Like we want to get together and have fun and celebrate life. Right. But it takes some work to get to the fun part, but we're skipping the work part because we're working so hard at our jobs. So like that stress relief is to me, that's a great place to start just without a lot of blood tests or anything. Like just look at your baseline stress. And I think your heart is the heart rate, does that give you a metric for that baseline stress? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we kind of, obviously there's ranges that I work with clients on, but if I'm just working with someone in a non-client capacity, what I would have you focus on, if we were to take out all of these fancy metrics, is just look at your energy levels throughout the day. So
Oh,
on a
okay.
scale of 1 to 10, what is your energy level at 8 a.m., 12 p.m., 3 p.m., 7 p.m.? You also want to write down, what's your mood? Are you having big swings in energy and mood throughout the day? Also, do you wake up anxious? Like, is your heart pounding when you wake up? If you really tune in with your body, like if you're waking up and your chest is thumping and you're waking up to an alarm and you feel like you just got shot out of a cannon, like that's a sign you're in survival mode, which means you're not really priming your body for fat loss, for full spectrum thinking, for the ability to actually move through the day in a way that doesn't feel frantic. And so I always tell women, like, if we can track those two things throughout the day, it'll also tell us kind of like where our blood sugar is at. Because if you're having big crashes in the afternoon and cravings and, demonic sugar cravings or, absolute hanger where you feel like you are going to murder your spouse if he takes more than 5 minutes to order at a restaurant, like that's all a sign that your hormones are imbalanced. So I kind of always
Okay.
start with those few things on day one just to get a sense of where a woman's at with their hormones.
So the timestamps through the day, and then I like how you said that our bot depending on where your cycle is, you're going to feel different things. And how does that do you have a general pattern for example, like if you're working out, is are there better days to do like weightlifting in your cycle than others? And maybe a gentle walk is better when you're having your menstruation or what are the general patterns you see with the time in your cycle that you could share with us? Because I think it's brilliant and I cannot believe like I was a competitive like I didn't compete nationally, but I was a runner. Like I didn't have my period because I had no body fat because I was such a runner. And like there are definitely times in my cycle where I know I'm going to play tennis better. Like I know some days, but I never knew there was a guidepost to deal with your hormones and what to expect from your body. And then we beat ourselves up for not showing up. Right. So illuminate for me that because this is great.
You know, understanding your cycle is it's one of the biggest hacks that women can do, right? Especially if you're an athlete, especially if you're working in a big role where you're doing a lot of speaking or client engagement stuff or, dinners with clients. The reality is the front half of our cycle, which is, let's call day one of our cycle is the bleed, right? So you're bleeding for
Okay.
anywhere from 4 to 6 days. Some women bleed longer, some a little bit shorter. But the next 10 days after your bleed is the best time to smash workouts. That's where you're playing like an absolute savage in tennis. You're feeling amazing. Mood is high. Your libido is going to be higher. So this is when women tend to, they want to be social. They want to go on dates with their husbands. They generally want sex more, right? And so because they're kind of leading up to ovulation, and that's when your energy is the highest. That's where I always think estrogen is energy, right? And so as estrogen
Okay.
rises for ovulation, that's where you feel the juiciest. And then the 2 weeks following ovulation, estrogen winds down, right? And so as you approach your period, so especially those 3 days before your period, that's when you're going to be the most irritable, the most cranky, the most tired. And so I always tell women, like, if they can get in a lot of their heavy training in that week after their period, it's going to go so well for them. And then if they can really wind down and focus on more gentle stuff, recovery, don't put pressure on yourself to go to the spin class, the hot yoga, the super heavy weightlifting the days before your period, because it's not going to go well for you. And you're better off, in order to get the result of releasing weight, you're better off just relaxing, replenishing, having a little bit more healthy carbohydrates, and just doing some reflecting as opposed to going and trying to smash a spin class or a berries at 6 a.m.
That we're not robots. Like we're dealing with this really it's a real thing. These hormones are real. So yeah, I'm thinking like more restorative, just like gentle walk, sauna, stretching, like, you know, expect what your body's going through in those times instead of being like, oh well, PMS. We didn't even have a name for it. It's a luteal phase. Is that what you're talking about? The luteal when
Lute-
you're
Luteal, yeah, yeah.
luteal. Okay, because I do Life. It's a period tracker called Life. I've done it for years, and I won't even go on vacation during my luteal phase because I will make everyone miserable. Like
Yeah.
I go into, I call her, she's my Brenda. I don't know, like she's like my alter ego, and I'm like, I'm sorry, everyone knows it when I'm going through it because I'm very in their face about when I don't feel good.
Honestly, this is it. You got to have that alter ego because you do.
Hmm.
I mean, I always joke that I have 4 personalities depending on where I am in my cycle, but like that's
Hmm.
a very real thing because your hormones are at a totally different place every week of your cycle. And it's also really important to mention, Julie, that like if you are having like obviously rises and falls in energy and mood are normal, but if you are having massive swings, and I'm talking just like ones that really impact your day-to-day living, and you have crazy cramps, you have crazy cravings, you can't get out of bed, you feel like you're a different person, like that's not normal. That's a sign that your hormones are a little bit out of balance. What we do want to expect is rises and dips in energy that are normal, where we're just like, you know what, I'm a little bit slower today. I'm just going to slow down versus feeling like you're on death's door.
Right. And the other thing is when you're at work or, you're in a situation where other people are depending on you, um, just being your authentic self can help them honor you. And it's not like you're not calling off. You're just like you're being comfortable where you are. And you don't have to explain your phase to the people around you, but you're not trying to be the other part of your cycle that's super go-getter. But I mean, because people pick up when you're trying to be something you're not and you're putting this mask on. Oh, I'm gonna be the super producer because I just walked through the doors of work. No, you have to show up as your best self today. And that slower version of you might take the time to notice something because you're not overproducing or not overproducing, but you're not so focused on your output, but you're more reflective on how things are going. Maybe that's when
Yeah,
you go internally and you look at things that you might want to change and come forth as your phoenix again.
that's right.
Those are all really important things to know is like what needs to pivot, what is fine, what's going well, like these different phases you can use to your advantage. And this is going to sound crazy, but like honoring that part of the detox of your phases of your menstruation, like it's a beautiful thing. There's stem cells in your menstruation. And that was life. That could have been another person, and so it's beautiful, and we flush it down the toilet and like, you know what I mean? It's like honor and send it back to the earth and, in the toilet be like, "Thank you, precious potential life. I'm sending you on to your next cycle too." Like honor that beautiful part of being a woman. It's not just dirty and something you get through. It's beautiful. And we don't have the red tent anymore, but I wouldn't mind having a red tent to go to every once in a while.
Yeah.
Like it might be fun to bring that back, but we're not there. Like we live in our society, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I
I
just
get
went on a
that.
rant about menstruation.
No, it's amazing though, because I think sometimes we need to ritualize the mundane. And for so many women, we become so separated from our feminine energy just by not understanding our cycle and honoring our cycle. And it's so easy to say that. And it sounds so corny and cheesy, but the reality is when we learn to connect with our cycle, which starts with understanding, right? It's like no one was taught how to do this, right? Like no one was taught how to really work with their cycle to get better outcomes with how they look and feel. But this is a huge hack. And I think in 15 to 20 years, this is going to be something that's taught in schools. And our daughters are going to be like, you mean you didn't learn how to do this in high school? And we're going to be like, yeah, we never did. And so I like packaging it as a skill set and a hack that women can use for their advantage. But I think what the trap that a lot of women fall into, because I work with a lot of very alpha women, a lot of very type A women, is they don't honor the bleed, they don't honor the back half of their cycle because they just want to
Hmm.
be operating like a crackhead at all times, where they're
Right.
tornadoing through the day, max productivity, because that's what makes them feel worth something, right? And so
Right. It's fortifying to get that paycheck. It's validating, right?
correct. Correct. That's right. And so, but what I find so many women, once they actually give themselves permission to rest, their life actually changes for the better and they look better than they ever have.
Hmm. Yes, I can see that and I applaud it. And it is scary to break the mold in that way,
Yeah.
but so worth it. I mean,
Yeah.
it'll literally take wrinkles off your face. Because you
Yeah.
hold on to that tension and that trying to control, and we're not made to control, we're made to create and be, contribute and feel joy and love. And so anytime you're not in, everyone gets disappointed, but if you can't find any joy or inspiration or, like you're always looking for someone to tell you good job, then that's to me, that's a red flag that you're not in your divinity and you deserve. I'm holding space for every woman to feel their divinity because it's your birthright and we need to claim it. It's like it's not no one's going to no man or boss or coworker or child, no one's going to tell you what your divinity is. You have to claim it. It's yours to claim as a sovereign being. Everyone's fighting their own battles. They're not going to look out like we would look out for someone and say, "Hey, claim your divinity." But no, like that's not on most people's minds. They're just trying to get through their day and do the best they can. So it's up to you to have it, to go get it, however it looks for you. So thank you for being a warrior in this. It's so exciting and I just adore your work. So I'm excited for people to take advantage of what you're offering.
I think there's never been a better time for women's health as far as awareness, educators, women who are coming to the forefront and not shutting up about how important this is. I help women who are interested in a serious transformation, right? It's not the women who want to do a GLP-1 or fix it with a pill. Like they come to me with a true understanding of, I don't want the quick fix. I'm not interested. That's repulsive to me. I want to do the work on my physical body, my mind, and me as a person and a soul in order to get me where I want to go. And so that's the kind of woman who I guide through a real transformation. And it's really inspiring because every day I have a new woman coming to me ready for this kind of transformation, and being able to hold women through it is, let me just say, it's way better than being in a boardroom in corporate. So it's fantastic. And I think in 10 years, things are going to look so different for women.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Well, I'm happy to be part of that message and hold space for that. So thank you for sharing all your wisdom. This has been so fun.
Thank you. And thanks for the work you're doing. I think having shows like yours and content like yours in long form is ultimately what helps guide people along in their soul's journey. So thank you for the work you're doing as well.
So if it hits your heart, that's your sign. So thank you. Appreciate it.